This is Dave Noll, and we're here at the Lower Anthracite Model Railroad Club in Shamokin. We're above the library on Independence Street. It's more of a museum than just a railroad club. It's one of the very few railroad clubs that actually model a specific area pretty much in its entirety from a certain era. Ours is the 1950s, the steam to diesel transition period. We have towns along the layout with buildings that are very representative of the buildings that were there at that time. The Lower Anthracite Model Railroad Club actually was formed from a group of 14 guys that met at the Central Pennsylvania Savings and Loan Building at the corner of Independence and Market Street here in town back in 1978. So they found a building on Sunbury Street here in Shamokin between Washington and Rock Streets on the south side. It wasn't ideal. It didn't have any heat. There was no restroom facilities. So in August of 1985, I decided to join the club. That was about the time Carl Bowers, he was the gentleman that owned the Victoria Theater here in town. He was actually the first president of the club once they became a charter, and said, hey, I think I made a deal with the American Legion. They're going to sell the building to the city for $1 because they can't keep up with it anymore. It's just too big of a building. So that's how we got where we are now. Now that we got the American Legion room, we needed to decide what to do with all the space we had. So we had a gentleman named Bob Belant. He was willing to take on the challenge of designing a layout for the room size. It was discussed early on in the planning that we would like to actually represent an area specific to our area, and it was decided to model the Pennsylvania, the Reading. Then it was also discussed that, well, the most famous train that came through our area at that time in the 50s was the iron ore train, which actually came from Erie, Pennsylvania down into the Northumberland train yards and made its way through Shamokin into Mount Carmel, where the Lehigh Valley would interchange with it and then take the ore down to the Bethlehem steel mills. We started very frugally. We knew we had a big undertaking, and we knew it was going to require some financial assistance to pull this off. We had our president at the time, Tony Washaleski. He always made a joke of when we go to train meets and buy an engine or some cars or something, he would always tell the person that he was buying it from, hey, it's for the blind nuns up in central Pennsylvania. So we need a really good discount. That was always his thing, was the blind nuns. He was always able to acquire anything, you know, relatively inexpensively, and he could work on anything and build anything out of parts and pieces. He was actually the driving force early on for the club. So yeah, we just started little by little, bought lumber to build the bench work for the layout once Bob Belant had finalized the plans. And the first year, we didn't even really have anything running other than bench work and some track laid. We still advertised for an open house, and we were amazed again by the hundreds and hundreds of people came to see what we were doing, and had a donation box sit out. We never charged admission, we always just had donations. For the longest time, donations have taken care of what we needed. In our heyday, the very late 80s and early 90s, it wasn't uncommon for us to have 4,000 people visit the layout during our Christmas time open houses. Wow. That's our biggest issue facing us right now, is just the upkeep. Some of this stuff was put in and glued 35 years ago. Sometimes the heat and cooling up here affects different things, so sure, you know, things need repaired, and that's a lot of what we do right now. In November of '85, we literally cleaned up this room, set up a modular layout that the club had in its possession. It's built to standards that you can take these modules to any place anywhere else and join them to an existing person's module. So the club had a small modular setup that they were able to do with some members that had their own modules and corner sections that were the club's property. And so our very first open house was the night of the Santa Parade in 1985 here in Shamokin, and we had a modular the modular setup, and we had a few hundred people come up to see us. And we had a big sign that said future home of the Shamokin area, or Shamokin Valley lines. And that's how we started here. Well, we're always open at our Christmas time open house. We decide the dates earlier in the year, and they'll be posted on our website and in other places on Facebook, etc. But it's typically the 2 weekends before Christmas right now and the day after Christmas. And we've also added in the last couple of years the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which has turned out to be a nice day for the public to come see us. And then we're always open the Saturday of the Anthracite Heritage Festival here in Shamokin. We're open that afternoon. And there's also talk, and we have enough gentlemen in the club right now that are retired and are available. We're trying to come up with maybe 1 or 2 days a month to have a regular opening date that we can publicize and have the public come up for that too.